One pitcher lost 26 games by the score of 1-0, more one-run defeats than any man who ever threw a baseball. His name was Walter Johnson. They called him the Big Train, because when his fastball crossed the plate, batters swore they heard it before they ever saw it. Catchers stuffed their gloves with raw steak to soften the sting. Ty Cobb, the meanest man in the game, quietly admitted he was afraid to dig in against him. Johnson threw harder than anyone alive. And for 18 years, it did not matter. He arrived in 1907, a 19-year-old farm boy from Kansas with a long, whipping sidearm motion and a soft, apologetic voice. Washington found him on a rough semi-pro field out in the Idaho desert, striking out everyone who dared to stand in. A scout wired the team one line: "Come get this boy before someone else does." From the first day he set foot on a major league mound, everyone who watched him knew they were looking at something the game had never seen. The numbers still don't feel real. 417 wins, second only to Cy Young, and no one since has come within 100. 3,509 strikeouts, a record that would stand for 56 years, until Nolan Ryan finally passed it in 1983. 110 shutouts. That number has never been broken. It never will be. In 1913 he went 36-7 with an earned run average of 1.14. He reeled off 56 straight scoreless innings. When they finally tested his fastball on a military speed device during the war, the machine clocked it at 91 miles an hour, in an era of dead balls and bare-handed catchers, a number that made grown men laugh in disbelief. He was, by every measure anyone could invent, the best pitcher on earth. And he pitched for the worst teams in baseball. They had a saying about his club in those years: Washington, first in war, first in peace, and last in the American League. The Senators couldn't hit. They couldn't field. Night after night, Johnson would strike out 10, 12, 14 men, and walk off the loser, because his own teammates never scored a single run behind him. He was too kind to complain. He hated throwing inside. He worried he might truly hurt someone with that fastball, so he gave hitters the outside corner and dared them to beat him, and still they couldn't touch him. He just kept losing, 1-0, 1-0, a great man chained to a sinking ship. 17 seasons came and went. The best pitcher who ever lived had never once thrown a single pitch in the World Series. He was 36 years old now. His fastball had lost its youngest edge. Everyone assumed his chance had already come and quietly gone. Then, in 1924, the impossible happened. Washington won the pennant. For the first time in 18 years, Walter Johnson was going to the World Series. The whole country stopped to watch. This wasn't just a ball game anymore. It was a nation pulling for one aging man. President Calvin Coolidge sat in the stands. Sports writers who had covered him for 2 decades openly rooted from the press box. Grown men wrote letters begging the baseball gods to hand the Big Train just one title before the end came. The New York Giants stood in his way, the sharpest, deepest, most ruthless team of the era. And in Game 1, in front of everyone who loved him, Walter Johnson took the mound at last to finish the story the right way. He lost 12 innings. He struck out 12 Giants, and lost anyway, 4-3, on a run that crossed in the top of the 12th. The crowd sat in stunned, aching silence. The fairy tale had cracked before it even began. They sent him back out in Game 5, the series slipping away, everything riding on his tired arm. And he lost again. Hit hard, worn thin, the great right arm finally looking every one of its 36 years. 2 starts. 2 defeats. The old story was writing itself one more cruel time, the best there ever was, too good to fail and somehow always failing, trudging off a loser while the whole world watched and grieved for him. Washington clawed back anyway. Behind their 27-year-old player-manager, a kid they called the Boy Wonder, they scratched and stole and survived. They forced a 7th game. And now the Senators had a decision to make, and no sane man expected them to make it. Because Walter Johnson had nothing left to give. He had thrown 2 complete game losses in 6 days. His arm was dead. Sending him back out onto that field was pure madness. In the 9th inning of Game 7, the score knotted at 3, the manager walked slowly to the mound, looked at his beaten old ace warming in the bullpen, and waved him in. The stadium came apart at the seams. 36 years old, running on fumes and 1 day of rest, Walter Johnson walked in from the bullpen to pitch the most important innings of his entire life, with the only championship he would ever chase hanging on every single pitch he had left. The Giants went right after him. They saw a tired old man, and they smelled blood. In the 9th, they put the winning run in scoring position, 1 hit away from ending it, from breaking him one final time in front of the country. Johnson reached back and found the pitch that had carried him for 18 years, and blew it past them. In the 11th, they threatened again. A runner on, the crowd holding its breath. And again the old man dug down into whatever was left and found one more fastball nobody thought he still owned. He pitched the 9th. He pitched the 10th. The 11th. The 12th. For scoreless innings out of an arm the doctors would have told him to rest, a man simply refusing to let the game take one more title from him. Then, in the bottom of the 12th, fate finally leaned the other way. A Washington batter chopped a routine ground ball toward third base. It should have been an easy out. But the ball struck a pebble in the infield dirt, a single small stone, and leaped high over the third baseman's head. The winning run came tearing around to score. And here is the part almost no one remembers. The third baseman was an 18-year-old rookie named Freddie Lindstrom. Earlier in that very same game, in the 8th inning, another Washington grounder had struck another pebble and bounced over that same young man's head to tie the score. Twice. Twice in one game, the same patch of dirt, the same helpless rookie, the same freak hop, as if the field itself had finally decided to pay Walter Johnson what it owed him. Washington won the World Series 4-3. And the pitcher of record, the man who got the win, was Walter Johnson. 18 years. 26 1-0 losses. 2 heartbreaks in that very series. And it all came down to a pebble in the dirt and an old man who would not walk away. His teammates lifted him onto their shoulders and carried him off the field. Grown men in the stands wept openly, strangers hugging strangers. It remains, to this day, the only World Series championship the city of Washington ever won. Walter Johnson pitched 3 more seasons, then quietly walked away in 1927. When the Hall of Fame opened its doors for the first time in 1936, he was in the very first class ever inducted, just 5 names chosen from the entire sweep of baseball history. Ty Cobb, Babe Ruth, Honus Wagner, Christy Mathewson, and the Big Train. His records tell you what he was. 110 shutouts, untouched for a century. 26 1-0 losses, a record no one wants and no one has ever broken, because no one else was ever that good on a team that bad. But the shutouts aren't why they still tell his story. They tell it because Walter Johnson is the answer to a question every fan carries somewhere deep and quiet: what happens to greatness when it lands in the wrong place, at the wrong time, on the wrong team? For 18 years the answer was merciless. The best there ever was lost, and lost, and lost, through no fault of his own, while lesser men collected the rings. And then, for one October afternoon, on a dead arm and a lucky stone, the game finally paid what it owed him. Baseball almost never works that way. The great ones usually run out of time long before their moment ever comes. Johnson got his, barely, late, by the width of a single pebble. So here is the question worth sitting with. If your whole life was spent being better than everyone around you, and losing anyway, losing because of who stood beside you, not who you were, would you have kept walking back out to that mound, year after year, waiting on a moment that might never arrive? Or would you have quit long before the pebble ever bounced? Follow for more.